Welcome to the Aussie Game podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. And what a week of Australian football it has been. The Socceroos with a crucial 1-0 win over Canada. And of course, the Australian Championship kicked off this weekend. Matildas squad announced. So much happening in Australian football. And here to help me go through all of it is Mopper. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chief. And wasn't it exciting, the Australian Championship? The goals that were scored were absolutely outstanding and great to see all clubs really advertising and promoting their local football community. It was just so good to see. And congratulations to obviously the Socceroos with a great 1-0 win. Really important victory. And we'll break that down tonight with some key points that we've looked at. And also, I would like to congratulate Jacob Italiano for his 653rd Socceroo. He's the fifth youngest debutant in the A-League with Perth Glory. He chased an overseas dream at 18 and went to Borussia Monk, team number 2. He played over 105 games there before moving on. He did have 28 caps at junior level, and I just wanted to say a special welcome to the Socceroos and a very special moment for his debut.
Well said, Mopper. Yeah, it was exciting to see him take up his spot at right back for the Socceroos. Let's keep going on that line of thinking, mate, with the Socceroos, because as mentioned in the intro, a 1-0 win over a very highly rated Canada, which now makes that 7 wins in a row for Tony Popovic's team, and it makes it 11 matches unbeaten since he took the job for the Socceroos. So absolutely incredible achievement for Tony Popovic, and hard to doubt him with what he's doing at the moment. We don't always agree with the decisions, both his squad selections and team selections, but it's hard to disagree because the results are there, plain and simple for everyone to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look back at the record-breaking number of consecutive wins, it was 11. It was Graham Arnold back in the 2019-2021 season where he went on an 11-match winning streak. And like you said, we played Canada, who were more of a counter-attacking team that are very like a high press. And we've seen that in the first half especially. And we'll break down the strengths and the weaknesses of that structure and how it affected the Socceroos. But you know, they were one behind us in the rankings at 26, and Socceroos obviously trying to push forward. And well, I've got a few notes on some important key teams around us as we try to forge our way into pot 2 in the top 24 in the world.
All right, let's talk about the starting lineup, mate. We know there are 8 changes to the squad in total, but only the one change for the starting lineup, which meant Lewis Miller. He took his spot on the bench, and as you mentioned, the debutant Jacob Italiano came in. Meant Alex Robertson and Nick D'Agostino were unable to make the matchday squad. But just a reminder, so Paul Izzo started in goals, Italiano at right back, the same 3 centre backs that we've seen pretty consistently now in Zaccardi, Deganek, and Burgess. Rolls took up his spot at left wing back, which was a surprise. O'Neill and Ballard sat in the double pivot. And then in front of those two, Iran Kunda and Connor Metcalf, and then Mohamed Toure led the line. So what did you make of the starting lineup, mate?
Yeah, look, the news on the street was if you look at Boss's record with Feyenoord, they've been playing one, resting one, playing one, resting one. So maybe he was one of the last in camp as well. It's important to note, but it's important to know how Feyenoord's managing him as well. And I think that's in Tony Popovic's thinking as well when you look at the way he's utilising Boss at the moment. And again, we've seen Popovic use roles as that fourth defensive back on the left-hand side to obviously give us more cover and defensive security. It does have a counterbalance to it. It doesn't give us the option in ease of flow when we transition the ball, but he still does a good job. But Canada definitely targeted that side, so you know, debatable whether that was the right move or not. It definitely presented challenges, but it definitely presented some opportunities as well. The other position that was interesting, Paul Izzo retains his goalkeeper status as the starting goalkeeper, and we'll discuss that further. But that selection proved 100% correct, with Izzo making several saves, and I think I heard some reports that it was the number one or he had the most saves of any goalkeeper. Was that correct from for the Socceroos?
Might have been. I didn't see that particular stat, but he certainly had an amazing game in goals. We know what a good shot stopper he is. I did listen to his post match interview, and he mentioned that he was surprised himself to be starting in goals after Matty Ryan coming back, and he was very full of praise for his fellow goalkeepers in Matty Ryan, saying that he is the number one keeper in Australia, and praising Joe Gauci for his ability to pick up that signing to Aston Villa as well. So he certainly thinks it's well and truly a competition for spots. I mean, he was glad to get the nod, I'm sure, but certainly didn't let anyone down in the match. Why don't you take us through the game, mate? Because you got plenty of notes there as you analyse the game back.
Yeah, absolutely. So I felt when just before the game kicked off, the night feels like another level. Yeah, it's on our journey. 25 versus 26 in the world, a real occasion and a real away test for the Socceroos, which I thought was key. It was interesting. Jesse March's comments, obviously before the game, noting that we have a stingy approach, which obviously he has the right to obviously give criticism, but I thought it was very interesting in his
I think it's
post-match
a compliment
comments.
though. It's a compliment though, isn't it? Like of
Yeah,
how good our defense has been. Really, I think it's maybe taken a bit out of context, but I think
yeah.
that's what he was trying to say.
Absolutely. Anyway, well, let's go to game time. And the first minute, dangerous ball in from Canada straight away. Burgess heads away for a corner that is also headed away by Burgess. So some early attacking signs there. Canada straight away in the first minute. The warning signs of the pace and the fluent football and the build-up was also there from Canada. And they were really testing out the spaces just in the pockets and trying to pull those left and right wing backs out of those holes to try to force an early ball in there and put them under pressure. The third minute, we've seen Canada appeal for a penalty after a dangerous build-up, showing a nice quality touch and playing through Australia with ease. But the penalty, he kind of dived for it and it was looking for contact, but the referee was right on the spot and quickly denied it. In the fifth minute, we've seen our first opportunity where we've seen a nice, good, quick ball player to Toure, which was looking good. So we're trying to get on the ball. And the highlights were seen in the 10th minute. Irukunda plays across to Ballard, who shot under pressure in a nice build up for the Socceroos. In the 11th minute, we've seen Canada back on the attack, just with a shot off target. In the 14th minute, we've seen Rolls. He was beaten by Buchanan. Buchanan was causing Rolls a lot of trouble, and they were trying to get Rolls to step out of that back four, back five, and try to isolate him a little. And it was seen all throughout the first half. We also seen Canada's press high four across the top and two in behind. It was like a web, and they were trying to shut us down at every opportunity. Buchanan showed too much pace and he got through Rolls as he shoots in one on one, but Izzo saves from a tight angle. So Canada was certainly firing a lot across our bow in that first 15 minutes. Next minute, Toure played in after a nice run from Metcalf. I thought Metcalf has really shown some maturity in this role and is really picking up the ball in some great spots. He's really come of age, Metcalf, and is forming a nice combination. Even Toure said that after the game in the match conference after. He needed to hit it first time though. It was on his left from a tight angle, but instead he tried to cut it back from the outside and the right, but won us a corner. In the 16th minute, we had a free kick where the Socceroos whipped it in by Metcalf, but the keeper punches away. So a few early shots there. In the 23rd minute, there was some patient build-up in the end from Canada, and it resulted in a shot from outside the box. In the 26th minute, the Socceroos gave the ball away, and it leads to Canada having another chance in the box, going away for a corner though. They came to a comfortable pickup though for Izzo. But it just shows that early signs of how we can't give the ball away in our own half. It just kept happening in that first half under that immense press that Canada was trying to put on us. And we did have difficulty trying to transition the ball and play through those lines. Well, very narrow and very deep, which didn't help our cause. I guess the way to try to get through that press we'll talk on and try to leverage as we go through these first half action. In the 29th minute, we lost the ball again in midfield, and again we're nearly punished, inviting unnecessary pressure on ourselves. And we're really under the pump from the 30th minute onwards, continually through that first half, as Canada really asserted the tempo and really ascended their play on us. And, as I said, Canada is more of a counter-attacking team, so they're not used to this much ball. But we were resilient in that defensive shape of ours, and it did frustrate them, and they were struggling whether to play a high or medium low tempo. And they were mixing it up a little bit, but they were trying to force the tempo as high as they could in the first half, but it had a definite impact in the second. I want to just note one key thing in the first half, in the 30th minute and 24th second. Why is Australia struggling so much to transition through this press and really counter-attack or really forge the ball in the opposition half? Because there was a lot of times where one stat in the 34th minute come up that Canada had 118 touches to 36 in the Australian half, which was quite concerning and remains an opportunity which Popper touched on in the press conference. So back to the 30th and 24th second. Again, we have options to play out. This is what happened, but it ended up in Italiano losing the ball. And it all starts, I want to go back to the beginning of it. It all starts with Rolls. He wins the ball in the back third. Ballard picks up the second ball, plays it back to Izzo. Izzo, not a great clearance. He pops up the ball in the air, only 30 yards out from our goal. From this, obviously, from goal, Canada had a six-man press, so displayed throughout the first half with their four high and two tucked in behind them. Luckily, that ball that was 30 yards out, Irukunda makes a challenge of it 50-50, and Metcalf pounces on the second ball. He lays a nice, neat pass to Irukunda, who was brilliant. First time ball releases O'Neill. It was really good, and it put O'Neill in the space. We beat the press for the first time. If we have a look at Canada's shape in this moment when O'Neill has the ball, they had 5 players behind the ball and 2 square of O'Neill. So we're set almost 7 Canada players behind the ball at this stage with those 2 just square. Have a look at it on the highlight reel if you can see it, and it really shows that if you can beat the press, what you can actually do. I just want to move on from that moment. We're into their half now. What's the setup look like when we counter-attack? Metcalf and Toure make the same run, and it's a narrow run in the same area, which really nullifies both of their runs. The defenders, they're both marked their goal side, so they're going nowhere. One of them needed to check towards obviously O'Neill or across the line, and it would have taken one of those defenders out or at least offered a pass for O'Neill, because he's starting to get isolated now as the defensive transition to Canada track back. Unfortunately for O'Neill, he's starting to run out of options. So he looks across the line. Where are we? Ballard is nowhere to be seen. The defence too deep. Look how deep they are if you pause it, and how we just did not push out quick enough to support. With Ballard not there, O'Neill's the only one midfield isolated with the ball now. Irukunda, who played the brilliant ball in the first place, is behind on the left, but obviously because he started the play and O'Neill took off, he's already behind on the left-hand side. So again, isolated and not in a position to receive the ball as O'Neill continues to drift to the right of midfield. He's now covered by 3 Canada players. Italiano makes a very smart run. I thought he did very well in positioning when he was off the ball. Unfortunately, he didn't get the ball in the right moments, but he did make those runs and a couple of smart ones I'll talk about in the second half. He makes a smart run. He's wide on the right and square, and is the only option now. As I said, the back 5 didn't push up enough. Italiano was the only one, and there's too much depth and width between the back 4 and the ball player. But now Italiano, who receives the ball from a square ball from O'Neill, he's now isolated and no option forward of the ball. And O'Neill realises this straight away. He tries to check his run, but it's too late. We're now in a position where we've gone from an attacking position to now 5-on-6. And our position on the ball is not good enough and is now stuck. Metcalf needed to continue to run, and he didn't. And O'Neill is now behind a defender, and most importantly, the back 4 not pushing up. And now Ballard arrives, but it's too late. So Italiano takes an extra touch that he doesn't need to. He's forced to look up, and that's when he loses the ball. McGreen from the Paramount commentary makes a comment and said he should have just turned out and played it back. But I agree, but we have to be set up quicker than that. There's small things in football, but if we want to raise our possession stakes and the way we hold the ball and transition, that's a really important note that we need to look at when we progress the ball or we want to keep it. As I said, as the game goes on, the 34th minute, we dribble through, Canada dribbles through the Socceroos with just too much weight of possession, telling us the ball nearly falls in again in the final third. And the stat comes up 118 touches to 36 in the opposition half, which paints a clear picture. What's your feedback and thoughts on that, Chief?
Yeah, I think with the press, I think it's as much as we are on this winning streak and we are playing reasonably well, I think the press is a bit of a concern, particularly if we are going to play this five at the back and our double pivots as well, because we don't really have the option too much to go over the top of the press or move the ball quickly when that's the case, unless we are giving those opportunities. So really, when you look back at our games across the time that Popovic has had the Socceroos, this is probably one of the biggest challenges we've had against the press. Obviously, the Japan game as well, but we did play a second or third string Japan team that night in Perth. But I think it's probably something that we need to get a bit better at, and I think it's the balance of the team. I think when you look at the lineup, and you could see, and we will talk about obviously Geordie Boss in the second half, but he offers even that outlet, the ability to beat a player one on one. Whereas if we're trying to pass the ball through the press, that's our option, and we have to be so clean when we do that. Otherwise, we're going to get picked off by these quality teams. Canada is a quality team, but there's going to be some much better opponents that we're going to face at the World Cup. So we need to get better at it. I don't think we're going to look at a change of formation at all with Popovic. So yeah, we need to have different options. Look like Rolls isn't the type that's going to take on his defender one on one. Italiano probably tried to do it a few times. I thought he probably tried a bit hard. Italiano, I thought he was okay, but probably tried a bit hard. But it really shows that we need to probably clean ourselves up a little bit with that ability to play out.
Yeah, if you're gonna play for a press, you really need to leverage the fullbacks, and unfortunately, the fullbacks had trouble, obviously, providing us the active possession or the passing option. And that's no disrespect to the footballers that are there. They did a good job defensively. It's just, as you've seen the impact in the second half, to play for a press, you have to really leverage the fullbacks and use that width and depth to play around it. But we do sit very deep when we play out, and it's like we're all, if we don't step up a little bit and push that, either that third central defender on or get that six involved, it puts enormous amount of pressure on those midfielders to play a narrow ball, which is where we continue to lose it. But I think Popper in the press conference realizes it, and he said in the press conference after that, obviously that 20-minute period in the second half where we did have control of the ball and did play through the press, it was much better and more effective football, which he's obviously aiming to do for 90 minutes. All
Yeah, I
right, let's
think,
go.
sorry, even just a quick one. I even noted that, and we're jumping ahead to the second half a bit, but Lewis Miller even at times was playing almost as like a higher right winger when we were trying to play the ball out, and Sicardi was dropping into that kind of nominal right fullback spot. So there was certainly a change in tactic a little bit there in if not personnel, but yeah, it was a clear kind of a different way for Popovic to play. So I wonder if that was on his mind, the lack of ability to play through that press in the first half.
Yeah. And we can play through the press in that 30th minute. Like I said, we can play through it, but we need to be out. We need to get out together to be able to move forward with the ball and hold on to it, or at least counter with some options going forward. All right, let's get back to the game and break it down. 36th minute, Canada had a free kick, but it was picked up by Izzo from a header in. Another free kick in the 37th minute sees the ball come back with a shot blocked by the Socceroos. Canada again piling on the pressure. Another good ball in the 38th minute, and they were really controlling that game, especially between the 30th 45th minute. I thought we're under the most amount of pressure the whole entire game in that last 15 minutes. in 40th minute and the 41st, we seen a bit of push and shove and probably a few yellow cards. I think Canada was starting to get frustrated they couldn't get through us, and our low block, our resilience and defensive pressure was really suffocating them, even though Canada was dominating the ball. I think Canada was getting quite frustrated by not being able to break us down as easy as what they thought they might. In the 42nd minute, I think this was probably the first clear cut chance, even though Buchanan had that one-on-one from the tight angle. It was that man again, though, Buchanan in behind, but Izzo saves down to the right again, which was, I thought, a much clearer chance than the one prior. In the 45th minute, we've seen another chance as Kone burst past Italiano, but hits straight at Izzo. He really couldn't handle his pace, could he? Kone was so quick and just glided through Italiano, that one. And again, another tight angle from Kone, but again, Izzo's presence and strength in the box was sensational.
I think
And then,
while we did get dominated in that first half, the fact that, as you said there, their first really clear cut chances came in the last 5 minutes of that half. You know, and we have the ability to sit in behind and absorb pressure. It's just probably a bit more than what we would have liked.
yeah, absolutely. And look, how we survived technically showing a little bit of weakness there, but it's the weakness is our opportunity, which we're fully aware of. But we were pressed to submission, weren't we? And our position in setup with the ball wasn't helping in that first half. And it was, I think, the positive though was that we were resilient. We did lock down. We did scramble away. We did put enough pressure on them and still be at 0-0. And I think we quite frustrated Canada in that first half because I think they would have thought they would have been 1 or 2 nil up. But Canada, they did get in behind way too easy. They were targeting those pockets just to the right and left of the midfield and trying to draw out those left and right wing backs with two with long balls, short balls, and 1-2s. But Metcalf and Ballard have they started brightly defensively. Just I thought Metcalf was looking dangerous, but just couldn't get enough of the football. And Italiano, like you said, was trying to be too hard to make an impact, but with the ball was making good positive runs. But again, just getting caught out a little bit there, too long on the ball.
All right. Yeah. So I remember Bruce Day and Alex Bross certainly calling for a few changes at halftime. Geordie Boss was one of those changes that they called for, but there were no changes. The same team lined up for the start of the second half. Canada had an early free kick, chance to. Oh, sorry, we had an early free kick, chance to put Canada under pressure. Good start. It was a good start for the second half. We came out of the blocks really well and probably had the better of the first 5 minutes or so. Yeah, there was some great play again from Iran Kunda and Toure. That combination is starting up well, but yeah, and then the 52nd minute, you wanted to point something out, mate.
Yeah, I just looked at the tempo of Canada, just completely dropped off. And when I analysed their press from the first half to the second half, it was very rigid. The first half, they were very structured, very disciplined, very together. The second half, there were gaps and they were starting to appear. They were still pressing, but one was further forward, one was further back, one was wider, and there were channels were starting to open up. I noted in the 52nd minute, and I thought, another opportunity that I think if we can get this right, it'll make a big difference. And look what it does when we lose it. So again, it all starts with Izzo. So we've defended a corner and a free kick in that short time space before it. But at the 52-minute mark and 25-second, Izzo pulls down the cross and is looking to release. But again, no one was there or no one was ready. So the problem is if no one's ready and we're not out early enough, it just allows Canada to get set up and attack us in this back half. So again, he's looking to release, but and I look at our setup. It wants to go, but we're not ready. He looks again, he rolls it to Sarati. So we've got the ball finally rolling. So when Sarati picks up the ball on the right, let's look at the setup again. Italiano's free on the right and takes up a really good position. I thought he did that well throughout the game. Canada, four-man press, two in behind. But this time it was separated and it was a lot different than the first half press. Now what follows? The trend of the second half. So Serrato, he plays ball to Metcalf, who's diagonal of the middle. So if he looked, he would have had to play a diagonal ball. So Metcalf set himself up nicely. The diagonal ball in the middle was on. Ballard and O'Neill, though, when I looked at their positions, they were still in the press. They were behind. They weren't in a position to receive the ball. Too deep. They were back with the back four, which I thought was a bit strange. We really needed to get them up higher. So Metcalf was the one offering the ball, and Italiano. So I thought if they're too deep, they're not going to be able to pick up that ball. And what it was like, there was just no option there for these two players, which I thought was crucial from a 6 and 8 role. So let's move on to the placer. He plays the ball diagonal to Metcalf. Intelligent with a back heel. Flicks to Toure, who plays a nice ball back to O'Neill, who stepped up, which is what we need him to do. So he steps into this space. So O'Neill's got the ball. He's in space. He's got time. He's got full look at the field. So again, let's look to the next phase of play. Let's see the setup. Metcalf and Italiano make great runs. They're down the right and they're unmarked and they're free. They're both just on that halfway line pushing through. And they were pushing out together and they were fast, and it was fantastic. If I look at Canada, they already had 4 players behind the ball. We'd beaten the press completely with that separation. And behind O'Neill, on the left-hand side, Rolls takes up a great position wide on the left and he's free. And even better, Irukunda was in front of him this time, which was just in a perfect line of sight in front of him. And there was a passing lane that was open for that ball. So not only did we have 2 free players on the right, we had a passing lane open on our left square, but this is our option. The ball is awful. O'Neill tries to play Irukunda, who was marked. So again, wrong option. And the ball falls short, which is costly. And again, we've missed the 2 players down the right, Rolls to the left. Imagine if Rolls takes out the defender, Irakunda's away. So we've missed an opportunity again to hold the ball and make something of this attack after we'd beaten the press. But the problem is, what happens when we lose the ball in these situations is because of the players that made the forward runs, we're exposed. Now Canada have the ball on the halfway line with space, and all those defenders, all those high attackers that were there that we'd beaten are all in great position. Luckily, Canada are slow with the ball, and it costs them. And really, they're too slow with the ball, and they don't move it quick enough, and allows us to recover. We missed a golden opportunity to go forward, but now we're in big trouble. We recover quickly due to Canada's slow pace and slow play of the ball, which I thought was a complete opposite to the first half, and allows us to defend. And even O'Neill, after that play, puts up his hand and he apologises to the team. He made a big mistake there. But the pace of the game had changed. Canada had totally switched off from the high press. They were separated, and the game and tempo had completely changed from a Canada point of view. There was no fluent movement, and the tempo was really slow, which just brought us into the game. And I'll hand over to you to really what was a game-defining 57th minute when the 2 changes come on.
Yeah, it really was, mate, because the changes were that Lewis Miller and Geordie Boss came on for Italiano and Rolls. Probably changes that a few people thought we needed to make watching the game live. But all of a sudden, 2 or 3 good chances came within a few minutes of those boys coming on the field. Chances fell to Toure, Manir and Kunda. And I remember at the time I was making notes so aggressively about this that I even missed Yazbek coming on for Ballard, which happened a minute later. But what a difference those changes made. Geordie Boss getting down the wing, taking on his defender, as I mentioned before, that just wasn't happening in the first half. He put in a great cross, picked up by Sakati, and then a great ball, and then Aaron Kuna just missed time the header. And then the 58th minute, great run from Aaron Kunda, got the ball to Toure, who volleys over. Yeah, 59th minute, Canada got control of the ball, got a good shot away on target. But then in the 60th minute, best moment of the game by far for the Socceroos to that point anyway. There's lots of fluid movement, some good first and 1 and 2 touch play. And then the ball ended up falling just behind Toure, and it fell to Sakati, who was just a little bit off balance. Would have been his first Socceroos goal on his birthday as captain. Would have been an incredible moment. But it was just incredible to see what a difference that those 3 boys coming on the field. And yes, it was probably a bit of energy, but I think the quality was telling as well. And couldn't believe the amount of times that Sakati got himself forward. I mean, he was even called out by David Davidovic there in the post match, and he just said, just see some moments to get forward, but yeah, on this occasion he got himself into the box and unfortunately just shot over.
And this is the advantage when you can control the football. And Boss was allowing those 1-2s. Even the midfielders stepped up with the 1-2s and possession. It allows the third central defender to play that six, which pushes the two midfielders up a bit higher, which supports that and it really leverages off the wing backs then. And that was a huge turning point and difference. And the quality of passing and possession and ball control just completely changed with those moments.
Yeah, and then around the 68th minute, Canada had a bit of the ball. Had a few chances, had a shout for a penalty that was waved away. I thought the referee was pretty good in that respect. Actually, there was a few players all game looking to milk some penalties or free kicks, and the referee was right onto that. But the 71st minute was the goal for Australia through Kunda. So it all started with winning the ball in the midfield, and then it was played out to Metcalf, who knocked the ball in the channel for Toure. It wasn't in on goal or anything for Toure, but he tracked it down. He was always favourite to get there first, but his ability to actually get the ball into the box early, it ran across the 6 yard box. The Canada defender took a touch, and there's our man Aaron Kuna just absolutely pouncing on it, and then knocking the ball across the goal. His third goal for Australia. So not the best goal we've seen Aaron Kunda score by a long way, but I think it shows that his work rate. There was questions about him being a 90-minute player for a long, long time, and you look at the way he just about ran out the game this one, and this was one of those efforts that just and Jite mentioned this in the punditry after the match as well. He could have just shadowed that defender or tried to win a corner or just put a bit of pressure on him, but he went for it and he got his reward. So it was fantastic to see.
Oh, it's just so good to see Irakundi. He's really expressing his personality and his drive in the way he expresses himself on the pitch and that huge appetite for the game that he has and the high standards he sets for himself. He is a real iconic game changer, and it's just so good at his age that he's going through all these experiences, and he's just going to get better from each moment that he learns off, and he's reaping the rewards from it, not only at club level but for his country. The confidence is there, and he really thrives on that. And well done to the leaders around him as well, giving him that support and coaching and mentoring in difficult moments because Canada were trying to get underneath his skin.
Yeah, for sure, mate. And then, yeah, just after the goal, 72nd minute, we saw Mo Toure taken off for Mitch Duke. We know that Toure picked up an injury for his last game for Randers before he came into camp. So, and we're very aware that Popovic knows of his injury history and he probably doesn't want to take any chances with him. But Mitch Duke came on, and all of a sudden you saw that more defensive-minded striking role that probably just trying to nullify Canada's attack rather than trying to push too deep. But I thought he did a decent job in his time on Duke. Won some balls, and there was a period late there where we almost carved out a chance due to his endeavour. Yeah, Canada had a few chances around the 75th, 79th minute, and then 82nd minute, Martin Boyle came on for Metcalf. He worked his socks off. Metcalf absolutely deserved the rest. He was definitely one of our best out there. And then Geordie Boss, 88th minute, just got his pass wrong. The ball broke, and this was the one for Duke. He battled and won the ball, and the ball broke out there for Geordie Boss and just needed to slide the ball in for Martin Boyle, who was coming in on that far post. But Boss just got it a bit too close to the keeper, and it was a missed chance there. But then the 90th minute, Lewis Miller falls asleep at the far post, put his hand up straight away after Paul Izzo bailed him out with a fantastic reflex save, one of his many on the night. Yeah, and then towards the end of the game, the game got very fiery in the last 5 or 10 minutes. Frustration from Canada, no doubt, but good to see the Socceroos not taking a backward step either. Miran Kunda almost saw red before being grabbed by his teammates, and I don't mean a red card, I mean the red mist. And he was very fired up. Canada hit the post in stoppage time, but Izzo again made some great saves toward the end of the game. So yeah, we did enough for the 1-0 win, and it's potentially going to turn out to be very important as we look ahead to the World Cup draw.
Yeah, it's crucial. And if you have a look at those tables, which we'll touch on in a minute, I'll break down a few of the games that played around us that will affect those points. But just want to touch on a couple of questions that you have at the end there around your spots in the Socceroos side.
Yeah, mate. Well, I've got a couple of questions that we can both discuss that I think have kind of come out of this game. So, is the goalkeeper spot Paul Izzo's to lose now? Matty Ryan obviously came into the camp. He's settled in at Levante, and I think most people assumed that he was going to take his spot in the starting lineup. But Paul Izzo hasn't let anyone down. So, is it his spot to lose?
Oh, look, I don't think it's his spot yet. If you look at the way Popper entered into his first game, Gauchi was the starting keeper. He's obviously then swapped back to Ryan, who was obviously the captain. And then obviously Izzo, with the opportunity against New Zealand, took it. And I think at the moment, we're going to know this answer probably in about 48 hours' time. But I think Popper's just got great option and leverage across all three keepers because they're all in good form. They all present great talent. It's like when we had Bosnich and Schwarzer and Kalik and all them. That reign of goalkeepers and the endless supply that we did's back. And Gauchi's gone to Port Vale, is playing every minute now. Ryan's found a home, Levante, slow start to the season, but really picking up, and it's a great headache to have for him. And I reckon this is exactly what he wants in every position: two or three players pushing each other to the max, and I think we'll benefit from this. But yeah, only time will tell whether starting at the World Cup is what the question is, or is it to lose. I think it's everyone's to gain.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, and as you said, it will be a very interesting decision for Popovic to make ahead of the USA game on Wednesday morning. Second question, it probably relates back to the first as well, depending on what happens with Matt Ryan. But is Scardi our permanent captain?
Oh, I think yes. Now going forward, I think he's made that call. Popper, what we don't not privy to the conversation of whether this is the next generation, but again, he's proven that is a leader. He's proven that he's playing at the top level in Serie A, and with Parma, and he's been there for a couple of years now, and he's showing exactly what Popper wants along the back line. And I, it'd be very interesting, but I think Sarati is definitely the one going forward. It's the future. We know Ryan's age and his profile, so why not make this permanent now and then let Siccardi just have a leverage off this for the next 5 or 10 years?
I think with both the calls with Izzo and Siccardi, if nothing else, it's giving those two plenty of confidence and plenty of backing that Popovic can rely on them both for those roles. So yeah, if nothing else, I think that's what he's doing there. Number 3, is our backline locked in? I probably mean the backline that finished the match, those back five.
Oh, look, I think the three central defenders are an absolute lock. We've talked about Harry Suter's recovery, but that's a long way off. He's got plenty of rehab and football to get back into, but this back three is the lock. The biggest question mark for me is the left wing back and the right wing back, because we've seen Italiano come in, we've seen Miller come off the bench, we've seen a number of different options there. And on the left side, we've seen the opposite. We've seen Rolls come in, we've seen Boss start, and really mixed up. So I think Boss would start in a World Cup game one. I got no doubt about it, and I think they're just trying to manage him, manage his fitness, manage his time. But the back three definitely. I think the right back and the right back backup is definitely up for grabs, and I think the backup left back is still up for grabs. I think he'll still take a left wing back to the World Cup. I'm just not sure. We haven't seen the A-League players come back in either yet. So I think that backup option, left wing back, is still there. I think Rolls, to me, I understand what he's trying to do. We've had those four central defenders at some point, and we'll need it in the tournament at some point. That way teams will come at us. But I don't think it's sustainable if you want to hold possession, and we have to create something to move forward for the tournament.
I think for me, I agree in terms of the centre backs. I think that would be hard to break up those three. Jordy Boss at the left wing back spot, he would start for me. In terms of a backup, I can see what he's trying to do with roles similar to you. Obviously, Bajic has been in the lineup before, so whether he would go for a Rolls or a Bajic as a backup, I'm not sure. One thing I will say about the right hand side, obviously, Karacic has been called up twice now, but unfortunately hasn't been able to make the final squad due to injury. We've tried Silvera there. We've not now tried Italiano. I know that Lewis Miller has some critics, but one thing he is consistent for Popovic. So I think he'd be very unlucky to lose that starting spot, and it's probably just a matter of who comes in. Obviously, someone like even a Jason Guerrier who is in the squad at the moment, who can play at that right centre back or the right back spot. So potentially we might see some of him in the game against USA, but I think we're getting pretty close to locking in that back line.
Yeah, good point. And what about the other side of the pitch, Chief? Is our question number 4, is our front line locked in?
Well, it's hard to go past Toure, Irankunda and Metcalf the way that they're combining at the moment. I know you're a big fan of McGree, but is he going to get his body right before the World Cup? I guess we'll kind of wait and see how he's managed at Middlesbrough. But those front three at the moment aren't doing a lot wrong to make me think that anyone's going to come in and take their spots. And I know we're jumping ahead. We're 8 months out from World Cup still. A lot can happen in that time. But those front three, they're forming a nice combination, and I tend to like the balance of what they all offer together.
I think Popper is absolutely over the moon with the front three and the back three, and I think they're pretty much all lock. And I think the fact that we're consistently playing them and they're getting better combinations, and Toure expressed how well him and Metcalf are linking up, and it's seeing with Irukunda as well how well they're forming in a combination. And it'll only improve with another 8 months out. Yeah, more game time, more time together on the training pitch and in game time. So I think those ones are absolutely locked in at the front, and the challenge will be what's behind. So I think there's still a couple of spots up for grabs in that front line, just with the depth wise. And I think whoever can step up in the next 8 months and be consistent support will obviously get into those last couple of spots that I think are available. I think 19 out of 20 Popovic's names already locked in.
Yeah, we probably will look at after the USA game. We probably will summarize a bit of what we think is locked in for the World Cup and where we think those fringe players that aren't quite locked in yet, what positions are still available for the World Cup. My final one is regards to Iran Kunda, who had a fantastic game, but we did see just before he was taken off, get very fired up. Is his temperament a concern?
Uh, a small part, yes. Teams are going to target him, but the Canada and America a different philosophy, don't they? And they kind of like try to rolls and wind players up. Like I don't see that in the European, North American, South American side. They're more interested in their own skill. But the thing is, you can't take his expression and his passion away because that's who he is. His football's based on that, and he has high expectations of himself. You don't go to Bayern Munich and say, "I'm going to try to crack this side," without having the mentality and the thought process to think I can crack this. And that's he's just expressing who he is on the pitch, and he wants every ball, every touch to be right. He'll learn as he grows older and matures and how to express that. And he's experienced that through Watford, Socceroos. He was out of Popper's side there for about 6 to 8 months. So, but I don't think I think his temperament is a benefit, not more than what it is a concern.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And Popovich did, when asked about this in the press conference, did say and did reiterate that he's 19 years old. So, we think about ourselves at 19 years old and some of those high emotions that we had. And he's in a pressure environment. And as you said, they're trying to get under his skin. I think one of the really positive things about the moment that he did fire up a bit towards the end there, it was Mitch Duke at first who kind of took him to the sideline, and then Matty Ryan grabbed him quickly, and then Popovic put an arm around him as well. He even saw Aiden Hrustic in his ear. So all those experienced players, and then he had a nice embrace there with Popovic after the game, after he was taken off as well. But all of those players got around him, saw what could possibly happen, and then just calmed it down. And I think that's an important part of having the balance of youth and experience in your team. But it's certainly something that I'm sure other countries will look at and see if they could take advantage of. But I think, with the right attitude from Kunda and the right people around him, that's something that he can, as you said, we don't want to take his passion away from him, but just channel it in the right ways, and I think he'll be okay.
Yep, spot on, mate. And what changes would you like to see for USA, my friend?
Well, I think for me, I would like to see Matty Ryan given a go in goals. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I'd like to see the back five that we finish with start the game. So, because it's probably been some time since we've seen that combination of that back five all together. At least if they can run out for a half or 60 minutes or so, we can see what positives we can take out of that game. Probably mixing up that midfield a little bit. I'd say Yazbek will start in that midfield, and probably just depends who comes in next to him. And then probably the front line, I could see Mo Toure being benched, just given his injury history, and probably one of Kunda and Metcalf, I could see them getting put on the bench too, just to get another look. Question marks for me is it if Alex Robertson will make the squad or even get some minutes, because it does seem a little bit strange to bring him into the environment and not even put him in the match day squad. But what do you think we might see, or what would you like to see for USA?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with the keeper. I think Ryan will definitely start, and that'll probably answer our captain question as well. I think Geordie Boss is no doubt going to start in that left-hand side. I'd like to keep Italiano. I just want to give him another crack. I don't want these one game wonders. I want him to see him with Boss on the left and that back three stable. I think Miller still got a bit to learn, and I think yes he has full effect, but he can rotate them on and off like he did in the second half. I think the back three are locked. I don't think you'll see any changes there. Although I would like to see Hayden Matthews at some point get some game time. In the midfield, I think you're right. I think I've seen enough of Aidan O'Neill. I think he's a lock. He's going to be in the side. I just want to see a little mix up there. Either Ballard pair up with maybe Devlin or Yazbek, like you said. Yazbek's the obvious choice, though, because he's in America with Nashville. And I think the forwards will still remain the same. I don't think we'll see much change. I think he'll go with Toure. I think he'll keep trying to test him out and maybe pull him off a little bit earlier this time. I don't know if Robertson's going to get game time or in the squad. I think he's more been brought in to just see where he's at and to get that continuity with the side to see whether it works or not. We've seen that with Segacic and a couple of others from the last one. So I think it'll be minimal changes. I definitely think Boss will come in on the left. Well, I hope it does because it definitely balances us off as a football team.
A good call on Devlin. I did miss him out of my changes. I definitely would like to see him either start or get some significant time now that he's in camp. Did you want to touch on where we're at in terms of our ranking and pot two?
Yeah, so if you look who's just above us, so we're looking at Ecuador, Korea, and probably Austria to stretch, but Austria are playing World Cup qualifiers, and meaning the points are double and worth more. So I don't think we're going to catch Austria at number 22. I think Ecuador and Korea are probably the most likely. Korea lost 5-0 against Brazil yesterday, so I think that they'll obviously drop points for that, even though I'll go through the friendly point rankings in a second. They do play Paraguay, so that probably will be a decisive game when it comes to pot two, and then Bolivia in November in the later window. If I look at Ecuador, they just had a draw with America, so they just finished 1-1. They did beat Argentina, though, in September and had a 0-0 with Paraguay in September as well. So, and a draw with Brazil early on in the year. So I think Ecuador will be difficult to catch. But I think South Korea is definitely an opportunity. As I said, Austria just had a World Cup qualifier and won 10-0 against one of the lower nations of Europe. And unfortunately, those point systems come into play. World Cup obviously being or international fully fledged more points. We did reach the highest of 14 in 2009. I did look that up to see how it all works, but it's very interesting. You've got to understand these friendlies, you know, the higher nation you play, the more points you get. But you've got to understand that friendlies aren't as worth much as is obviously World Cup qualification, which Austria in. So I think South Korea and Ecuador both qualified will probably be the ones that we can possibly catch.
So what you're saying is we shouldn't have qualified for the World Cup first time around, and we should still be in qualification.
No, we needed those points. The more points we got, the better. We don't want to be in Graham Arnold's situation, although he did win 1-0 this morning in a very important qualifier against Indonesia. So the more points you win at World Cup qualifying stage, and this is why we lifted so quickly, as when Popper took over those wins and those 11 games that we're undefeated on now has really skyrocketed us up the ladder. But we're definitely right in the top 24 picture with Korea and Ecuador in our sights. So to wrap it up, Socceroos versus Canada, I just want to touch the base on Tony Popovic's interview. He was asked a lot of good questions from the Canadian press as well as the Australians. One of them was, why do we have much less of the ball? But Popper pointed out wasn't our intention to have so much less of the ball. Understanding Canada's has a very much more experience than us, and we're just building. He was really happy with that 20-minute period, but he wants to gain more than that 20-minute period in the second half he was talking about, and getting that squad, that experience, which is vital. He did mention that several Canada players were in high-profile clubs playing week in, week out. He also talked about it was nice having 15 players Monday at training. He normally only has 8, as he was asked about the international travel. It talked about the two wide players gave us energy, and our challenge is to be able to sustain this period. Our challenge is obviously to extend that period from 20 minutes onwards and play a full game with that kind of play, and to continue on what he said before in conferences to increase our depth. Our team are working hard, but we did really suffer in that 45th minute, which I discussed on. If a quick point on the Canadians, what they thought of the loss, the the opponent today really frustrated us. We struggled to open them up. Australia and it started with comments saying, about being a little bit stingy, but more a low block. Canada just come out flat in the second half, and it gave the Socceroos the ascendancy. We weren't good enough to break the Socceroos down, and we just moved the ball too slow in the second half. Jesse March's comments, this is what the World Cup's going to be like. We're going to have to learn from our mistakes. We just didn't make clinical decisions with our 17 opportunities, and we created no real quality chances apart from that one from Schoeffelberg at the end where he had a one-on-one. The rest of them needed a quality finish, but we lacked that today. So that was a bit of a wrap from the conferences.
The stingy Socceroos, we're going to get a nickname, aren't we?
Well, as out of text, like you said, but a low block or strong resilience, but we're definitely very difficult to break down. And it's obviously played on Canada's mind because it definitely frustrated them throughout the game.
Yes, it certainly did. All right, so the Socceroos will next take on the USA, which is going to be on Wednesday, Australian time. So we look forward to seeing what Tony Popovic is going to select for that squad, and it's going to be another great challenge on our path to the World Cup. So we'll probably do a breakdown of that one during the week and let you know our thoughts on that one. So we hope you're as excited as we are to watch Socceroos in action again. Our other national team, the Matildas, they announced their squad during the week for their upcoming matches against Wales and England. Not a whole lot of surprises in their mopper, pretty much what we expected. The highlights being that Sam Kerr is back in the squad after her long injury layoff. Obviously, it's been great to see her back in Chelsea colours, but the next step for selfish reasons is to see her back in a Matildas jersey and just see what she's up to and how she starts to form those combinations with a few of our other frontline players.
Yeah, it's good to see. And Courtney Vine, welcome back as well. And Gorry returns. Vines has only played 14 of possible 24 matches for North Carolina this season. 5 starts, 491 minutes and 1 goal. Russo is in line to make her 100th appearance for the Matildas. And the big question is, will Jada Wyman get a chance, the former Sydney FC product, get a chance in goal after her consistent minutes in Sweden?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mentioned the battle between Mackenzie Arnold and Tegan Micah. Micah's still not getting minutes at Lyon, and Mackenzie Arnold getting some minutes in America. But Wyman's probably been the most consistent in terms of minutes of all those keepers, and she's been in a fair few squads now without getting a look in. So it would be nice for her on a personal note to get some minutes. There were some probably omissions that we looked at that probably a bit unlucky. Probably the one that we thought was the most unlucky, Daniela Galic. She scored again overnight for Vichko GIK, making that 3 goals in 5. So interesting one for Galic. Whether she's going to be included in another camp before the Asian Cup next year, or whether it's more of a plan for her to be involved post Asian Cup and for that World Cup run.
Yeah, look, the future's in Danielle Gallic's hands. She was at Twente last year at only 18. She's only 19 years of age, has been capped with the Matildas 5 times. So having a great time over there in Sweden at one of the mid-range clubs. And we've been reporting a lot on her and her ability. And I've got no doubt is in the back of Joe's mind. It's just probably with Gori back and that mid Amy Sayer, obviously with Fowler out needing to play that style. I think Amy Sayer's just ahead in the pecking order, but one for the future, Gallic, and I think she'll be definitely in future squads.
Definitely. And then also Charlie Rule, probably a bit unlucky. She's been getting consistent game time over at Brighton with Dario Vidicic and also Jessica Nash. Probably a bit unlucky. We do have a little bit of depth in terms of the back line, probably a bit of versatility there as well with, our regular starters in Claire Hunt and Alana Kennedy, but then you do have the likes of Winnie Heatley coming through as well. So, yeah, probably bit unlucky, just Nash, but another one for the future to keep an eye out on for sure. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the approach is to these games. It's probably the first time that Joe's had a full squad. He did have a bit of a mix for those games in Western Australia earlier, but it's probably the full first time he's had a good look at a full squad for these games.
Yeah, a lot of players playing consistent in Sweden, a lot of players playing consistent in England, a few of them in the Champions League, so they're getting plenty of game time, and he'll test them under his new formation. Probably our best squad that we've had for quite a while. So against Wales and against England, I think Wales would be a nice build up to a massive game against England. It really will show Joe where they're currently at.
Yeah, those 2 games are going to be played in late October, so closer to the time, we'll do a more detailed preview of those matches. Let's move on, mate, to the Australian Championship. Very exciting. It kicked off finally after a long time waiting, and yeah, it was fantastic to see. I know a lot of football fans have been really enjoying the action, really enjoying the storylines that have come out of it, and really seeing a lot of these historic clubs getting their chance back on the national stage. So, yeah, what have you made overall of the weekend before we look at a bit of game by game analysis?
Oh, such great tight contests, aren't they? Like, yeah, and it's great SBS has got them, and there'll be a lot of people that would have watched the old format on TV and having access to that and been so close. Crowds have been good. The football's been good. They just belong, don't they, in this pyramid? And the sooner we get this going further on down the track, it looks like it's going to be a roaring success because there's a lot of people talking about it and watching it, and the standard's really good. So the goals have been probably the standout, hasn't it? We've probably seen goal of the year about 5 times, I think, this weekend alone.
Yeah, well, let's start with the first one, the first ever goal scored in the Australian Championship. It was an absolute 30-yard screamer from Ali Orgler for Sydney Olympic. So yeah, fantastic strike. And then South Melbourne kind of worked their way back into the game, had the better in the game for the rest of the first half, particularly on set pieces. They were very dangerous. Their tall defender, Jankovic, he was a target for Max Mikla's long throws. They were absolutely amazing. Mikla's long throws was an absolute rocket that he's got. Yuki Uchida, sorry, and we took advantage of one of those long throws in the last minute of the first half. The schooner brought home a goal. Sydney Olympic had the wind at their back in the first half, and it was a bit interesting, the commentary talking about how much that might change in the second half. And then Ollie Laval put South Melbourne ahead early in the second half, and then they were on the front foot. They dominated the second half. South Melbourne couldn't quite put Sydney Olympic away, and then Ryan Foots equalised for Sydney Olympic in the 85th minute, and we thought we were heading for a 2-2 draw, only for Jordan Lampard to pop up with a left foot curler, absolute peach of a goal in the 87th minute, sealing the points for South Melbourne and the first ever win in the Australian Championship. reportedly about 6,000 fans out there to watch that first ever game. So, yeah, what scenes and what a way to start the Australian Championship.
Yeah, pitch looked great. The crowd was great. The football was great. The goals were fantastic. Great night to open the Australian Championship, and the games just kept getting better.
Yeah, and then on Saturday, West Apia, they beat Metro Stars 1-0. Saya Kambiashi found Jordan Segredo on the edge of the box, who slotted home. Just minutes earlier, Metro Stars had a chance to open the scoring, but Kalash made a smart save with his feet, and then West Apia held on for that 1-0 win, which is a good start for them. But Metro Stars definitely very competitive. And then on Saturday, we had the second game on Saturday, sorry, we had Preston Lions had a 1-1 draw with Northwest Sydney Spirit. Preston really dominated this game, created the better chances, but a mix of wasteful finishing and some great keeping actually from Christopher Marquez in goal for Northwest Spirit, restricted Preston Lions to just one goal through Jason Romero. And then, yeah, just right at the end of the game, Caleb Jackson Brown scored for the visitors in the 3rd minute of stoppage time to absolutely break the hearts of Preston Lions. So, yeah, another cracking goal right at the end. But yeah, it just kept coming because today, speaking of late winners, Broadmeadow Magic lost 3-2 to Moreton City Excelsior. So Moreton City is the only team from Queensland with the competition heavily dominated by New South Wales and Victoria. So they led twice, Moreton City Excelsior, but were pegged back. Finally took the lead in the last minute of stoppage time when Seda Murai won and converted the penalty. But earlier, Moreton City's Joe Scott scored a couple of cracking goals with his left foot, one from one edge of the box and one from the other. So certainly going to be a player to watch, I think, in this Australian Championship. And the goals for Broadmeadow Magic came through Jared Baker and Cody Nankaro.
All right, and most exciting for us, Chief, as we're from Wollongong, South Hobart lose 3-1 to the Wolves, and welcome back to the Wolves on a cold, wet, and windy South Hobart. Played host to the Wolves down there, and the highlight of the game was the goal of the year contender already. We've seen some great goals prior, but halfway special. Kaz Yamori's goal from halfway line was a sensational in the corner. Earlier, the Wolves opened the scoring, but the broadcast was lost at the time, so we can't tell you much about that one, only the people at the game. Austin Yost then scored for South Hobart in their first Australian Championship goal, pouncing on a loose ball in the box, and then Thomas James then finished off the scoring for Wollongong. The pressure forced a turnover, and some unselfish play led to James to having the chance and putting the icing on the cake for the Wolves. Well done through a 3-1 away win down in windy, wet Hobart.
Yeah, another game on this Sunday. Heidelberg, of course, Australia Cup finalists. They beat Marconi 1-0, thanks to a very nice strike from Anthony Theodoropoulos. I picked Marconi to win the Australian Championship, so they haven't got off to the best start, but quality opposition. But it's a massive game next week, even this early stage, between Marconi and South Hobart in that group to see which one of them could pick up their first points or first win. Avondale, who was your pick, Mopper, to win the Australian Championship, they beat Canberra Croatia 3-1. Watching the first half of this, you could tell there was plenty of quality in the Avondale lineup. They just couldn't quite get the combinations right. Fawn Rowley, who's moved there obviously for Melbourne Victory, was having little impact, but he normally likes to get involved in the build-up play for Rowley, but because they were dominating the ball so much, he was very high and couldn't get involved. But Amir Abdallah, I made this note just before halftime, but I said that they'll be very dangerous, him and Fawn Rowley, if they can start to get the combination. And as it turned out, early in the second half, Abdullah supplies the cross for Fawn Rowley to head home the opener. So if you watch it back, watch just before the ball comes in from Abdullah, and Fawn Rowley just makes that little subtle step to lose his defender. Just so clever at probably 38 years old or so he is now, but he's still got it between the ears, that's for sure, and found enough space to not home the winner, not home the opening goal, I should say, sorry. George Ott then added another shortly after coming on the bench for Avondale. Canberra, Croatia pulled one back through Yoki Yoshisha. But Zachary Chianchi seals the win with Avondale's third in stoppage time. So another stoppage time goal. And then the last game of the round, Marty, do you want to take us through that one?
Oh, well, it's ended in a draw, my friend. Sydney United drew 1-1 with Bayswater City. Carlos de Oliveira's penalty, after a rather soft award, is cancelled out by a late equaliser, well deserved for Bayswater City, through Jackson Stevens with a lofted volley sneaking in from a cleared throw-in. A huge result for Bayswater City, travelling from Western Australia all the way over to Sydney. So fantastic result, and Sydney United will be disappointed, but you know, the Australian Championship just goes to show. Look at the players that we're mentioning and the quality that the clubs have picked up. Shows there's a lot of depth in Australian football.
Oh, I agree, mate. And there's so many former A League players that have, for whatever reason, have kind of dropped down to this level. But there's so much quality in there, and up and coming young players. It's just fantastic to see this platform. And as mentioned, with a few of them, they're going to have that national stage for clubs to look at them and potentially get some moves in the not too distant future. But look, I mentioned this earlier on X. We could nitpick about a few things that we saw throughout the weekend, but I think it's just an opportunity to celebrate that this Australian Championship is finally underway. And yeah, let's embrace it and let's enjoy it because it's fantastic. We've had some tight contests. No one's been absolutely blown away at all. We've had drama. We've had some late winners, some late equalisers, and it's just been fantastic to watch.
Oh, it's been a great spectacle, and the quality that all the sides have provided has been nothing short of sensational. And we wish them all the best in the future. And well done to everyone for the advertising and the effort from the community groups pulling all this together. Because the some of the clips that I've seen that they're doing with the fans and getting out there around the local areas have been nothing short of fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So we look forward to some exciting contests coming around this coming weekend as well. Let's touch on a bit of other news just for the moment, Oppa. There's some big news in the A Leagues because Mark Jackson, Central Coast manager, has left a week before the A League men's season. So really, really concerning times for the Central Coast Mariners. Doesn't sound like things are going particularly well on or off the field up there. So let's hope that they can at least be competitive in the league this year. We certainly don't want them to fall away, but Mark Jackson leaving, and to be honest, a lot of Mariners fans that I've seen haven't pointed the finger at Jackson. They've actually thanked him for what he's done for the Central Coast Mariners. Of
Oh,
course,
he's done a fantastic job. Yeah,
yeah,
wow. Well,
of
yeah,
course,
he's
we should celebrate the fact that he himself only arrived at the Mariners a week before the season when Nick Montgomery left to take the job at Hibernian, and that season he won the championship with them, beating Melbourne City, and then of course that historic next season winning the treble with the Central Coast Mariners. So yeah, it'd be hard. It's hard for anyone to point the finger at Mark Jackson. He obviously sees an opportunity for himself in his coaching career, but yeah, he's done a fantastic job with the Central Coast Mariners in his time.
Yeah, and coming in, assistant coach Josh Rose will take over for the team for the trial match against Wellington Phoenix. They did say that the next 2 weeks they'll have someone in place. They have identified Ben Kahn. They've even said about Nick Montgomery coming back. I don't know if they'll get him from Forest, with both having ties to the Mariners Academy, of course. But yeah, big decisions to make for Ken Schirnby because yeah, it doesn't look good up there. Whatever's happening up there financially as well, it looks very scary times up there. And we just hope the club can pull through like they have in recent years and times. And yeah, I'm really concerned about this A League season. And yeah, if you're a Mariners fan, yeah, let's just hope the performances on the field. Trent Sainsbury's going to have to, and Redmayne's going to have to play a massive role on the pitch to help these Central Mariners get through this difficult time.
Yeah, Ben Carter would be an interesting appointment. He had a short stint at Brisbane Roar before leaving, and before that, he was highly touted as an up and coming coach. So it might be an opportunity to get Ben Carn in. I think you're right in terms of the stretch to get Nick Montgomery back. Let's not forget, of course, that Emily Husband, their A League Women's Championship winning coach, also left the club as well. So they've lost both their head coaches from last season, the Mariners. And yeah, let's hope that As I said, they can at least be competitive. They've got a massive match first up against the Newcastle Jets, which will be a tough one. So, yeah, as I said, let's hope they're at least competitive on the field, but we'll have to wait and see. A couple other things for you, mate. Alex Chiak's Como, they beat Juventus 1-0, with Chids getting 22 minutes off the bench. So, yeah, our Aussies are
Giving them
upsetting.
all sorts of trouble, aren't
Yeah,
we? The Aussies.
upsetting Juventus, obviously a 0-0 with Sassuolo last week as well. So yeah, we'll see who's next for Juventus. They wouldn't want to see another Aussie on the other side of the pitch. And then also
They
Courtney
don't
Nevin.
play Roma, do they? We'll have to check that.
Oh yeah, we should check that actually. Courtney Nevin, she played 90 minutes in Malmo's 2-1 win, keeping their slim title hopes alive. They're 4 points behind with 4 games remaining, but yeah, looks pretty tough order, but they're still hanging in there. So hopefully Nevin can help out and get them to a championship over in Sweden.
I can confirm Roma's not playing Juventus, so Juventus will get a week off from the Aussies.
I should say as well, you mentioned the trial against Wellington for the Mariners. They lost 3-0 today to the Wellington Phoenix. So probably not surprising. Probably not surprising given the news, but yeah, as a club, though, we probably expect them to be around about the mark. Not the best result, so we'll see. We'll see how they go. Speaking of A-League men's season, which kicks off on Friday this week coming, we're doing a massive season preview. We'll be doing all 12 of the clubs, and yeah, look forward to releasing of those previews throughout the week. We've got a busy time coming up, Moppo, because we're also going to be reviewing the Socceroos game against USA on Wednesday as well. So you're going to be hearing plenty of us in the next 7 days or so.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, plenty to talk about, but all good stuff.
Absolutely, mate. All right, that's going to do us for this episode of the Aussie Game Podcast. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to having your company when we come back together on Wednesday and review the Socceroos game against USA. In the meantime, enjoy your football.